Hello and thanks for joining us on the Tuesday edition of your award-winning journalist Hangout. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Today on the program, PDP drags INEC to court over decision to declare Osun State governorship election inconclusive. 26 aspirants go to war over Borno State governorship election ticket of the APC. And later on the show, bandits return to Zamfara, kidnapped 7 customs officers and demand huge ransom. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Ochitoju, Shola Otewuse and Wahid Bakare. Journalist Hangout starts now. Thanks for joining us. Now, the battlefield for Osun State governorship election is widening as Nigerians await conduct of Thursday's rerun to determine the eventual winner. The contest has become two-pronged. The leading candidate, Senator Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), has dragged the electoral umpire INEC to court over its decision to declare the poll inconclusive. The PDP says the court must also declare Adeleke winner and order the arrest of the Osun returning officer, Professor Joseph Fowakpe. It stresses that Fowakpe's action on Saturday amounts to a nullity. Where do we go from here? It's $1 million question. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on the show this evening. It appears INEC's verdict on the Osun election seem to have divided opinions on which of the laws should take eminence. Is it the constitutional provision of having the highest number of votes, of course, not less than 25% of each of at least 2/3 of local government areas, or the extant law, as well as what they call the INEC's guideline, which provides that a winner or the margin between the top 2 contenders must be in excess of the total number of registered voters in areas where elections have been cancelled. Let me come to you, Babajide. Earlier on Breakfast, on TVC Breakfast, a lawyer argued that a party cannot go to court in an ongoing election, that a rerun must hold, a winner must be declared before the door is open at all to the judiciary. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree absolutely with the lawyer, and I recall that when the leadership of the APC came together and frustrated Faleke's lawful aspiration to become the governor of Kogi State after the death of his principal, Obaka Audu, he went to court, and the now retired Justice Ademola affirmed that it was not a pre-election matter, and that because it was not a pre-election matter, his court lacked jurisdiction to hear the case. So, though at that time, the judge saw wisdom in the case that Faleke brought before him, but he told him that he had to take the matter to an election petitions tribunal. So it is clear that you can only take pre-election matters before a tribunal. Remember also Mama Taraba's ill-fated attempt to become the governor of Taraba State by citing alleged irregularities in the manner in which Governor Darius Ishaku clinched the ticket of the PDP. The tribunal, the election petition tribunal, gave him victory at the lower court, at the petitions tribunal, but the appeals tribunal nullified that victory, and on the grounds that the matter was, 1, a pre-election matter, which should not have been brought before a tribunal, an election petitions tribunal. 2, that Mama Taraba was not a member of the PDP. Mama Taraba did not take part in the primaries that produced architect Darius Ishaku Dixon Ishaku that she's complaining about. And the court said, you can only complain if you are wronged. Since you are not part of the people who contested against him and who were allegedly cheated, because if you recall, the tribunal was, I mean, the primaries, they moved it to Abuja, and it was in Abuja that Ishaku emerged.
That's right.
So the tribunal ruled that Mama Taraba was not wronged in any way. Therefore, she was not competent to bring that matter before the tribunal. And then secondly, the matter was a pre-election matter. You know, so in this case, I believe that the PDP made the wrong move by taking an election matter before a regular court. It has to be, they have to be patient and file the case before the petitions tribunal when it's eventually inaugurated.
Well, Wahid, we seem to have a very rich precedent. As a matter of fact, inconclusive election is an age-long phenomenon in this part of the world. As far back as 1979, the presidential election between late Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Alhaji Shehu Shagari ended in the Supreme Court. They had to decide whether they got 25% of two-thirds of states in the country. All the way from 1999 in Rivers, 2011, I believe, in Imo State, 2014 in Anambra. Just recently, we even have a similar case in Bayelsa and Kogi. Would you say that we have arrived on a legal framework upon which our electoral process operates by, such that we don't go back and forth on issues like this?
I think if you look at some of the cases you have cited, there are slight differences. And there is this saying that every case will be judged based on its merits. I think that is what is giving some of these people the opportunity of saying, okay, let's go and try what the law says. But like you rightly said, it is too early to do that now, you know. But I think it's a good thing that they want to try the law in court, because like I've said times to that number, that once the laws are there and they are not being put to test, they will just be there gathering dust on the shelf, you know. And there's this saying that law is what it is, and what is not, it is not what it ought to be. You know, once something is law, it is law. You know, let them go to court at the right time, and let's go and put it to test, so that we will have a precedent. So that anytime we find ourselves in that similar situation, we know that we already have a precedent, you know, that we can rely on, instead of going back and forth on the same matter.
Babaji, there's no credible democracy without credible elections. And there is no way we can have credible elections if we don't have a credible legal framework. There are many who would say that there seem to be different loopholes in all of our laws. One constitutional mention is saying it's just about having the highest vote. Another one is saying, you know, there is a complexity, the margin between the two top contenders and the total number of registered voters in areas where elections have been cancelled. How do we harmonize all of these and make it in black and white?
Yeah, yesterday I talked about the need for the final court of the land to make a judicial pronouncement on this matter, because INEC chooses to organize this kind of reruns when it pleases it. And when there is no consistency, then people are bound to complain. People are bound to say the kind of things that the PDP guys are saying at this time. You can't have a similar situation happen in the election of David Mark, former president of the Senate. And INEC didn't organize a rerun. You can't have the same situation happen in Kogi, and INEC didn't think it was right to organize a rerun. And I talked about Bayelsa yesterday because we covered the Bayelsa election. We saw what happened before our very eyes. The election in Bayelsa was characterized by violence in some local governments. And you know, INEC had to do a rerun. They had to do a rerun, I think the following Saturday. You know, and I think Sagbama also, just one local government. But at the end of the day, the margin of Dixon's win was lower than the number of cancelled ballots. And Silva's number one agent at the collation center granted the press conference where he was saying that they were sure that that Nigerians hadn't had the last, that this election should have been inconclusive because we had a situation in which the cancelled ballots were higher than the margin
between the two levels.
the margin of Dixon's victory. But at the end of the day, INEC didn't organize a rerun. INEC didn't talk about a rerun. So that's what I'm saying. Consistency is the problem. But there can be no doubt that the Electoral Act permits INEC to take the action that it took in Osun. The Electoral Act permitted INEC to take the action that it took in Kogi. You know, whichever way the outcome may have been unpalatable to people, but the Electoral Act permitted them, and the Supreme Court affirmed that the relevant. I want to read a portion of what the Supreme Court said about this matter. The relevance of INEC's manual for electoral officers in the proper conduct of elections was acknowledged by this court, that is the Supreme Court, in the case of CPC versus INEC 2011. That's pages 54 and 55. It says, by force of law, the Independent National Electoral Commission has the duty of conducting elections. Besides the constitutional provisions, it is guided by the Electoral Act 2010 as amended, and the election guidelines and manual issued for its officials in accordance with the Act. These documents embody all steps to comply with in the conduct of a free, fair, and hitch-free election. So it's clear that the Supreme Court does not see the Electoral Act as a document that INEC officials cannot use, just simply because the Constitution is there.
It's apparently an offshoot of the Constitution itself.
Yes, it's the body of laws that govern conduct of election in Nigeria. So, and it's recognized by the Constitution, and the Supreme Court dismissed the argument that, oh, because the Constitution, we have the Constitution, therefore, whatever action these people take in adherence to the Electoral Act, to the letters of the Electoral Act, constitute a nullity. The Supreme Court disagreed with that.
You know, the PDP is also demanding the immediate arrest and prosecution of the Osun State governorship election returning officer, Professor Joseph Wakpe, for succumbing to pressure from the APC. Each election year, stakeholders go to the poll second-guessing the ability of INEC to do its job without interference from the incumbent government. How can this independence for INEC, be achieved if it doesn't already exist?
It is typical of any human being. When you are at an advantage, if you are favored by a particular process, you tend to like that process. I'll take you briefly back to what happened in Kogi. When the election was declared as inconclusive. You should also remember that as at that time, 2015, APC is already the ruling party. There was also this allegations at that time that the federal government-led APC is putting pressure on INEC, to declare APC candidate as the winner of that election. But they went ahead and said, no, we won't do that. Instead, we'll do a rerun. The same PDP that's crying foul now, applauded that move. They did a similar thing in 2015 gubernatorial election in Imo State. There was also this issue of inconclusiveness.
That's right.
So it will always, that allegation will always come. It depends on who is talking at that particular time. If PDP knows that it's at an advantage, it is not. There is nothing wrong in saying that, oh, it's because APC is the ruling party. But like Jide said, it's about consistency. And once we have a precedent, once we have something we can fall back onto that, oh, when we find ourselves in a similar situation in so year, these are the steps we take. Once we are consistent with and it is backed by the law. You know, what is not in doubt is that both the Constitution and the Electoral Act empower INEC to conduct election. You know, INEC will also rely on Electoral Act to say that, look, the Electoral Act permits us to say this is the guideline, this is the method we want to use. This is we are also empowered to fix the date. This is part of the guideline. You know, that allegation will always come up. But as long as we have a precedent backed by the law, I think it will put to rest all this agitation.
Let's take this call from Abdul Kadir. Abdul Kadir is calling from Abuja. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Fine. Terrific. Please go ahead with your contribution.
I'm most obliged for having this opportunity to contribute my own quota to the discussion online. Hello?
Well, with you, Abdul Kadir, please go ahead.
Okay. As you see, what is happening in Osun State is really unfortunate because we have several situations and scenarios that happen in other parts of this country. Can you hear me?
Well, with you.
Yeah, similar scenarios have happened in other parts of this country that they have declared the election conclusive and APC has declared their candidate the winner. Another one happened recently in the by-election that happened in Kogi, just of two local governments where you have the council vote that is even more than the difference between the winning party and the second runner-up, and yet the election was declared conclusive for APC, in favor of APC. And now this is happening in Osun, and you can see the difference of what has happened, and yet they are declaring election conclusive just because they want to have an avenue so that they can, I'm sorry to use the word, they want to obtain the election. And the people's voice is supposed to count because they have showed that despite the fact that APC is ruling that state, you can see the way they turn out and vote back to back. What is happening?
It's all right, Abdul Kadir. I think you made your point. Thank you very much for your contribution. It boils down to double standard that you highlighted earlier. The fact that these decisions must not be left to the discretion of INEC. We need to have it in white and black. Yes. But the PDP that has gone to court is also actively involved in consultation. Senator Iola Umishiri appears to be the beautiful bride now. Would you say this is the party trying to fight from all angles?
No, you don't rule anything in politics. You don't rule anything out. They are, just in case this method fails, they can settle for the election. They are still actively in the contest. They are ahead. And when you are ahead, you have the advantage. And in any case, we talk about 3,800 plus eligible voters.
That's right, registered voters.
Not all of them actually collected PVCs.
They are PVCs.
Those who collected PVC are far lesser than 3,000. So it's just a little over 2,000 or so that actually collected PVC. So those are the people who can vote. And then out of the people who collected PVCs on the day, who collected PVCs, some will not come out on election day. So we could actually see a situation in which just a quarter of these people will turn out on election day. It happened in Kogi, and they were told that, look, out of the huge number, I think 42,000 or 40-something thousand potential voters that the INEC talked about, a lot of them did not even pick the PVCs.
Well, what is responsible for this voter apathy at reruns like this?
You see, in Kogi at that time, that area was overrun by herdsmen. That part of the state was overrun by herdsmen. So many of them didn't even come out on election day. People had abandoned those villages. So to imagine that, oh, because this area, there are so many voters here that they will come out, was a long shot. And then you look at even Osun, Oshogbo, the eligible voters in Oshogbo are more than 100,000. Almost maybe 170 or 190, I can't remember. But those who actually voted were just about 60-something thousand.
That's right.
So it's a normal thing that on election day, people, the majority of those, many people will not turn out to vote.
And it's happened
Maybe
in a
for
state.
fear of violence or something. When our electoral process becomes much more credible, and we begin to see it like a carnival, something that makes us happy, then people will come out and vote.
And amazingly, there are some who would even say that there's a remarkable improvement in the collection of PVCs in the just concluded elections, 75.45%. That's a huge improvement from what we've recorded previously. But then, what is the implication of having elections won in court? It's the same reason why we have staggered elections in Ekiti while we're back in Osun. In Osun 2007 election was contested in court and returned Aregbesola in 2010. What is the implication of this on the credibility of our elections?
Well, there's nothing new in it. It's been done all over the world, whereby election is concluded in court, after everyone have voted. Because if politicians find enough reason to say this thing should not stand, based on certain illegality that took place during the election, they are bound to go to court,
even in Kenya,
and seek redress. Even in US, as advanced as they are in terms of democracy, at least the majority of us believe that democracy being practiced in the US remains the model for the rest of the world. But you discover that occasionally they go to court to go and settle it. Because if you are aggrieved, for crying out loud, and you have enough reason to say, no, this election cannot stand based on certain fact that are permitted by the Constitution, you can go to court. There's nothing wrong with it. It will, at the end of the day, strengthen our democracy to know that even if you win through crook means, it can still be
contested in court.
At the court. I think it's good for our democracy.
It's less than 48 hours to the election in Osun, and everyone is waiting to see how it pans out this time. Well, we talked about the Osun electoral conflict, and of course, the political terrain in northeast state of Borno is not smooth either, with 26 aspirants jostling to snatch the governorship ticket of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The stage is set for a titanic primary election battle. Governor Kashim Shettima's alleged refusal to interfere or anoint a successor has been fingered as responsible for the multiple APC governorship aspirants in the state. But having numbers is one thing, managing those figures is another kettle of fish. Will it be a case of the more the merrier for the APC at the end of hostilities? That's a question we attempt to answer here. But then, what is it with APC and many aspirants in their primary election? In Ekiti, there were 33 of them. Osun had about 17, and now in Borno, we're looking at 26. What would you say is responsible for this?
Yeah, it's the ruling party, and is the party to beat any day. APC is so strong in Borno State that once you win the primaries of the party, it is assumed that you've already become the governor of the state. It's just like that in Cross River too, and that's why primaries in Cross River back in the day used to be very bloody, because once you have the ticket of your party, it is believed that you've won the election. Because Cross River, it was like a one-party state with PDP in charge. So even in Borno State, it looks very much like a one-party state. So you can imagine a state where the Boko Haram continues to attack people. Some communities are still being patrolled by Boko Haram. People are still being held against their wish. There is serious competition to become governor. Each of these aspirants paid 22 million naira.
That's a huge sum.
So at the last count, the party had received 572 million from governorship candidates alone. And of course, you still in one state, and you have House of Reps members, House of Assembly members, senators, also attracting, all those positions to attracting a lot of aspirants. So it's because Borno, there is no doubt about it that APC is the party in charge. That's why people believe that this competition, they have to get involved, and if they win, there's no doubt that they will
Was that not the
become
thought
governor.
earlier in Osun? Anyone would have thought that if you got the APC ticket, it was going to be a free ride. It didn't turn out that way.
No, there were some things that happened before the election. There were so many defections from the APC. You know, but for people like Shomole who always brag that people can go.
I won't lose a sleep.
No, we won't lose sleep wherever people who have defected. What happened in the war? What happened in the war must have shown him clearly that when people leave sometimes, you must do your best to bring them back. You can offer maybe an ADOT something, maybe a Senate seat or something. Just try to keep him in the fold. It is hypocrisy of the highest order to lose a member who had been with the party from the beginning, and then you say you are not going to lose any sleep. No, you're just deceiving yourself, because we saw now that if someone like ADOT had remained,
that's about 48,000.
The 16,000 margin by which they lost in Iwo would not have happened. You know?
That's right.
So this is it. Many people also defected from even the Elisha area, and you saw how it turned out in the election. 4 of those local governments in Ijesha land going to the rival PDP. So people, maybe many months back, you could have thought, oh, this election would be so easy.
That's right.
But defections from the ranks of the APC weakened the party. So the defections have play a negative role in the outcome of elections.
Why? It's a huge number we're looking at here, 26. And just like Babajide said earlier, all of them paid 22 million naira each. However, there are allegations that some were simply sponsored to spoil the chances of others. How does this play out in politics?
You can't rule it out. you can't. It's a possibility. And I believe that is what is even playing out. You know, if there are some of them among the aspirants that knows that no matter what, they can't get the ticket. But like it's been alleged, you know, they are there to be a spoiler for certain people. If you look at the number of people vying for the governorship seat in APC, there are 3 of them are commissioner at present. You know, one of them is also a senator. You know. So
6 of them are commissioners.
6, okay. I even thought there are 3.
No, there are more than
6 of them are commissioners.
The cashing boys.
You know, that's why those are the ones that have been termed as the cashing boy. But the good thing is that the governor has assured all of them that no, I won't have a hand in it. I hope it is so at the end of the day. You know, because you know, and why you have that kind of number is because you should also remember that the governor is running the 2nd term. I think that is his 1st term. You are not likely going to have that large number.
That's right.
You know, and because of the fact that it's also the ruling party. If you go to a place like Rivers, for instance, now, I'm very sure if there are going to be aspirant jostling for that seat with the present governor, there can't be more than 2 or 3. That is if there will be at all. But because of the fact that this is the 2nd term of the governor, they believe that the road is clear
I think also because the governor didn't show any interest in a particular candidate. He will have a candidate that he prefers, but he appears to be closing his cards, keeping his cards close to his chest. So, and that has encouraged other people to say, well, if this man will give us a level playing,
we can also try our chance.
Let us try our best. In any case, that didn't happen in Yobe. There was no contest. The governor just handpicked Meibuni, the national secretary of the APC, and said that's the person who will succeed him. So in this case, Shetima has left these guys to contest, to try their luck, try their popularity, and we've seen a situation in which so many people are coming out. And of course, the former governor of the state, Alimodu Sherif, is also believed to be sponsoring some of these candidates.
Some of the candidates.
In fact, Alhaji Idrissa Dokwa, who is from the Borno South, is suspected to be one of the candidates.
That's right.
Who is enjoying the support of the former governor of the state, Alimodu Sherif, because Alimodu Sherif has been clamoring for power shift to Borno South.
That hasn't tasted in 40 years.
When you look at all of these other people, that the governor, who have worked with the governor, like Professor Baba Jana Umar, the commissioner for rehabilitation, reconstruction, and resettlement, none of them is from
Let me hold you for
None of
a
them
bit,
from
Babajide.
Borno South.
And we'll be back with this discussion. It's interesting. Unlike the position in Lagos, indirect primaries has been adopted for Borno APC. And when we come back, we'll be talking more about that. Stay with journalist Hangout. Welcome back. 26 aspirants go to war over Borno State governorship election ticket of the APC, and that's what we're discussing right now on the show. Let me stay with you for a while, Babajide. Let's begin to look at the factors that will play themselves out in this primary election. There is the Alimodu Sharif factor. There are those who they call the Kashim boys.
Yes.
And of course, the Borno APC is also going to have an indirect primary.
Yes.
How does all of this play out?
Well, the indirect primaries will put the initiative firmly in the hands of the governor. And because the governor is the father of the party in the state, he's been around for some time, the delegates, the bulk of the delegates will be loyal to the governor. And of course, I can predict that one of the Kashim boys, as they are called, will emerge the winner of this potentially tough contest. Already, though Shetima has not opened his mouth to say, I'm backing so person, but feelers in Borno State suggest that he's commissioner for reconstruction, rehabilitation
and resettlement.
Professor Babajana Umara, and the Commissioner for Justice are two guys that people see as being very close to the governor. And the Commissioner for Reconstruction, for example, amongst them all, he appears to be someone who has worked extremely hard because the governor has been passionate about reconstructing communities destroyed by Boko Haram and having people leave the IDPs and go back to their ancestral homes. And Umara has been the one leading the line in making this happen. He's gone to dangerous places. In fact, he had to be restrained. He wanted to go to Mate, that even our soldiers don't get excited about going to, just so that the construction can happen. So
let's take this cover.
NGOs in the state picked up his form. They bought a form for him because the NGOs have worked with him and they believe that, look, this is a person that they can support. But of course, you know, in politics, anything can happen. He may still not get it at the end of the
never, because you never can say. Emmanuel is calling in from Kano. Hello, Emmanuel. Welcome to Journalist Hangout.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Well done. Please, I really love your program and I'm enjoying it. Babajide, I hate you.
Thank you. How is Kano?
Babajide, was it not yesterday? I saw that you collected an award and you really merit it. So thank you for the well job.
Thank you so much.
Okay, but please, Babajide, I want to chip in this issue of Osun State election.
Yeah.
What I want to say is this. When the state election was held,
yes,
they were like saying the people are wiser now. How will they vote somebody that has not paid salary for like how many months and whatever? And this is exactly what is happening in Osun State right now. For over how many months, this governor has not paid. So our electorates are becoming wiser every day by day. That's what is transparent. Please, the ruling party should be transparent and be free. Give it to who electorate voted for. This rerun of election, I don't think is the best thing to do. Let them just announce it and give it to the guy. He has won. That's my own view.
Well,
thank you for your contribution, Emmanuel.
I agree with you largely, but the PDP said in the statement issued by their spokesman that even if the Osun governorship election is conducted over and over again, the PDP will still win. As the people of the state have chosen the PDP and its candidate, Senator Ademola Adeleke. So if they are confident that if they do the election a million times that they will win, I don't think that they should continue to bother themselves about.
And we're going to have to wait
till rerun.
So
let them just go and take part in the rerun.
How that eventually plays out. Let's get back to Borno for a beat. Earlier, we were talking about the factors that matter, the Kashim boys, and everyone seemed to have a story. For instance, Senator Baba Kaka, some would say that He's in the Senate to reserve a seat for for the governor, as it were. There are also those who are craving for a power shift. The fact that there hasn't been a governor from the south in the past 40 years. But the big question is, will the Borno APC be able to manage these numbers? In Ekiti, well, it was quite relatively managed, but in Osun, it wasn't. What do you see the APC doing differently this time?
I think if they provide a level playing field for all the aspirants, you know, and they don't give any reason for anybody to have a genuine complaint against them, I think they will get it right. You know, politics is about give and take. You know, those who bought form, they will not want to fold their arms and just, you know, allow their 22 million naira to just go away like that. You know, if the contest is free and fair enough, and it is seen to be free and fair, because when you're talking about free and fair contest, it can be relative at times. You know, what we consider to be free, I may say it is not free as far as I'm concerned. Yes. So that's why I say it is somehow relative. You know, but once they are able to assure all the aspirants that, look, whoever emerges as the winner at the end of the day, let's support him.
How can an indirect primary be free and fair? Just a minute. Let's take this call from Kano. Misal Mukhtar, welcome to Journalist Hangouts. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Gentlemen, good evening to you.
Good evening, Mukhtar.
Mukhtar.
How are you doing?
Fine.
Terrific.
Yeah, okay.
Let me congratulate you on the award you received on behalf of the TBC. Congratulations.
Mukhtar.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide.
Thank you.
See, the problem of too many people aspiring for governorship in Borno State is nothing to write home about. That is expected. It was alleged that some PDP sponsored other candidates to spoil the show. Too many aspirants may bring, at the end of the day, antipathy, because other people who are not being served or who are not winning will now defect or will now do antipathy, as the case may be. So it is dangerous for APC now to come out, about 26 of them, looking for one single seat. Let them be united. Otherwise, they will be surprised. A surprise will take place. And I am telling you, anybody that will not feel good enough, he will now tell his people, go and vote for PDP. That's antipathy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mukhtar, for your contribution. There's a perception that, just finally on this issue, that indirect primary doesn't necessarily bring out the most popular, as it were. Most of these delegates were elected under a particular governor's administration, and most of them perhaps might also be loyal to him.
There is no doubt about it, but don't also forget the fact that, you know, there are three options before the party. They are free to choose either direct, indirect, even consensus. Once it is proven that is what they agree to go with, there's nothing wrong with it. But the danger with indirect is that, you know, like you rightly said, they are likely to do the bidding of the governor, because they are his appointees, his advisors, his commissioners, and, you know, people that are in his cabinet. They are the one that will go to the election and pick whoever they want. You know, and
especially the statutory delegates.
And, you know, they are going to look at the body language of the governor. Nobody will want to offend him at that point in time. That's also the danger in it. But if you have a direct primary, you know, people are free to choose. That one is more democratic. But you can't...
More inclusive.
More inclusive. But you cannot say, since the party has also given them the option of choosing among the three. So whichever one they choose, as long as they can prove that it was agreed that this is the consensus candidate, so be it.
Let's move on very quickly now to other matters. The price of freedom, as often said, is eternal vigilance. For some time now, Nigerians seem to have taken a break from the menace of armed banditry in Zamfara state. But the false peace has been cut short. The Zamfara Police Command says armed bandits have kidnapped 7 persons from Nahuche village of Bungundu local government area. In the early hours of Sunday, heavily armed bandits besieged the village in large numbers and whisked away villagers, including some politicians. They released one of the victims with a note demanding 100 million naira ransom to free the others. Well, let me start with you, Wahid. When President Muhammadu Buhari sent a 1,000-strong military force to Zamfara, sometimes in July, Amnesty International said previous deployments have had little or no effect at curbing the widespread crime. What are your thoughts on these new developments?
It shows that government has failed. There's no doubt about it, because if you look at the primary responsibility of every government is to ensure that there is security of life and property. But we now have a situation whereby almost on a daily basis people are being killed. As we speak, I'm very sure no fewer than 370 people have been killed since the beginning of this year. A lot of them have been kidnapped. We now have a situation whereby they kidnap for ransom. I think the problem started with this issue of cattle rustling. After a while, it's graduated to kidnapping, armed banditry, and the rest of them. I think they need to find out. There's also this belief that a lot of youths in that state, they are idle. And there's this belief that, an idle hand is devil's workshop. As we speak now, there are some aspirants that are even using it as part of their electoral promises. That once I get there as the governor, I'll make sure that security of life and property, become the major targets of my administration. So
it's apparent that this has evolved, from the situation in 2012, the clashes between farmers and herders. We're looking at an organized crime where gangs demand a ransom. There are people of the opinion that this situation needs more of intelligence approach rather than force. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is clear that we lack credible battlefield intelligence. It's affecting us in the Northeast because we can't track the movement of the enemy, and because our soldiers are usually in defensive positions, they come attack the army bases, kill people, steal weapons, and then they escape. We have to learn to take the battle to this way, but we can't take the battle to them without credible and sustainable battlefield intelligence. You have to know what the enemy is planning. You have to know the location of the enemy to go on the offensive. Because we do not, and because we also suffer from equipment inadequacy, the rapid movement that we expect from a modern day fighting force is not happening. We are just static and waiting for the enemy to strike. So even in Zamfara now, the porous nature of our borders, I can tell you that the bulk of the people killing our people and kidnapping people for ransom in Zamfara, in Gwari, and a few other places, they are not Nigerians. They are Fulani from outside our country. They are Fulani from outside our country. When I went to do a story about refugees from Zamfara a few months back, the people told me that those who come to attack them are Fulani, but they are not our own Fulani. They are Fulani from other parts, from neighboring countries. And how do you differentiate them? They are long hair. They plait their hair like women, and their hair will grow very long. So they see them when they come to attack their people, so they can identify them that these are not our people. And the savagery that they demonstrate all the time shows that Nigerians can't be that wicked against their fellow countrymen and women. So we have to police our borders, ensure that these people do not come into the country, and then the proliferation of weaponry. If you go to Zamfara State, these bandits, they attack villages on motorbikes, and each motorbike will carry a minimum of 3 bandits. 3 bandits, each of them armed with either an AK-47 or an AK-49. So it means that if they move about 100 motorbikes into a community, 100 times 3, you are looking at about 300 guns. So even if you have an army base in that village, they are likely to overrun the army base because they will outnumber the soldiers, and it's the same weapons that the soldiers are carrying that they too will be carrying. So this is the situation. We have since 2013, 2014, these bandits have been killing people for free in Zamfara. We thought that, okay, there was a respite. But you can see that they've reduced attacks on communities and have now opted for, in the last 2-3 weeks, they've opted for kidnapping, for ransom. They're attacking villages to steal cattle. It appears that they can reduce that, because there is no way they can do that without being suspected with the number of soldiers that were poured into the area. How do you move like 100 cattle that you have stolen?
So now they prefer now to kidnap people and ask for ransom.
Yeah, because it also fetches them a lot of money.
It's a sad tale that we are telling for years now. The big question is there an end in sight for these incessant attacks?
Well, it depends on what we want as a nation. If we can do what we call intelligence sharing among the security agents, it will go a long way. Because if you look at the kidnapping they did this latest one that involved 7 people, it's like they now know their targets. They know the person they are actually coming for.
Politician.
You know, they actually asked for the house of the APC chairman in that local government. But unfortunately, they now went to the house of a former councillor who is also an APC member. That shows that they know the terrain, they know their target, they know what they want. So it's now left for us to do what we call intelligence gathering, you know, I mean sharing among our intelligence agents. You know, US has taught the world a lot, the importance of sharing intelligence among security agents. Prior to 9/11, there was nothing like that in the US. But the moment they started using it, before then, everywhere was doing their thing their own way. Other security agencies were doing their thing their own way. Until when they now came together and started sharing, you know, so that if police cannot nip a particular crime in the bud, they can rely on DSS to do it for them, or the civil defense. Luckily for us, the civil defense did not carry harm, unlike in the past. You know, by the time they combine, by the time they put their hands together, you know, they can put it in abeyance.
But when you have a kidnapper or, you know, whatever you call them, armed bandits coming into a community asking for a politician, do you still think that such a person is a foreigner?
Yeah, a foreigner which...
Let me just hold you for a bit, Babajide, and then we'll get back to that. We have a caller from Lagos. Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
What's your name, please?
Yeah, it is Divine.
Ibrahim, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, good evening to Babajide.
Good evening.
I want to recommend Babajide for his award-winning program.
Thank you.
And also, I want to speak on the issue of the armed bandits in Zamfara. You see, the situation is because we are not, our security has been, in terms of politics, they fail to do the right thing. Because you know these people, where they are coming from, you leave them, they come in, at times they do whatever they want to do, and they go. Immediately after the people left, you now come in, the security will now come in and begin to pick some innocent people. You see, we should leave the security, let the security at state of Nigeria be independent, not a politics of a thing. In as much as our government are putting hand into the politics, these things will keep on repeating itself. So I'm appealing to the government to look at, for example, what is happening in Zamfara, what is happening in Maiduguri. They now took military to where there is peace. Does that look as if we are serious? Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Divine, for your contribution. Well, so if they are foreigners, it's either they have domestic help that is giving them the names, or what exactly? How do we explain this?
They will have collaborators amongst the residents of the community. Because if they were resident in that community, for example, they wouldn't be asking for the home of those people. They would just go there, you know, do what they want to do and leave. These people stay far away from their targets. They just move in, execute their clandestine operations, and then find somewhere to hide. If you, on the way to Zamfara State, driving through Kankara in Katsina, you see hills. There's nowhere in the northwest where I've seen that number of hills. And behind these hills, these guys are set to, that is the Kankara Road, you know, when I was going there to see the IDPs. And behind these hills, they hide the kidnapped victims. There is no way you will know that anybody is behind or the other side of the hill, because the mountains are quite high and there's no inkling at all. You won't even know that people exist there. But this is where these guys are. They keep the suspects and they keep their victims and ensure that they extract as much money as possible from their relations before they are released. And unfortunately now, they are moving closer and closer to Sokoto. So it's no longer a Gwari Zamfara problem alone. They are moving closer and closer to Sokoto because as you pummel them in this area, they try to find somewhere that is free. So that is what is happening now. On the highways now, on the way to Sokoto, Wuruno, Tureta, and all of these places, these bandits lay siege for motorists. And they kidnap motorists and they even open fire on motorists. You know, so it's a terrible thing. We've not been able to tame them in the Gwari area. There's a forest that stretches all the way from that place to even this Zamfara. So we've not been able to tame them. They come on the highway, Gwari Funtua highway, beautiful highway, but people largely deserted because people know that it's dangerous to use that route. So they stay on the highway, kidnap people. Even Kaduna Abuja highway, that dual carriageway, they continue to kidnap people.
One of the most dangerous.
It has become one of the most dangerous highways in Nigeria.
You know, they say that everything rises and falls on leadership. And there appears to be some sort of relationship between security and elections. No doubt the lives of people are more important than election, but they say, just like they say often, that the primary responsibility of every government is security and welfare. If there is insecurity, it means therefore that elections might not hold in many areas. Then how do the people get a chance to dictate who leads them and takes them out of this challenge?
It should be a sort of double tragedy for the people, you know. They can't have a say who becomes the next leader, and nobody can guarantee of the security of their lives and property. If you look at the particular statement made by the governor the other time, he said, I'm no longer the chief security of the state. You know, it's a way of running. We all know that in paper, in the real sense of it, you cannot say the governor, you know, they are the chief security of their state, because we have a governor that cannot tell the commissioner of police to do certain things unless he get clearance from the IG, or ask the brigade commander to do anything unless he get clearance. Yes, we are saying that the governors are the chief security of the. I think we should find a way around that thing. You know, let them be able to take control of security. Let them be able to dictate. Let them be able to tell the commissioner of police that this is what is happening. We have seen so many situations whereby people have a premonition that an attack was imminent. Yet they raise the alarm, yet nothing will be done. And people, those bandits will come, they kill people. That's not the way to go.
Can we say that this is just a one-off incident? Because there seemed to have been a break for a while after that 1,000 military force that was sent by Mr. President.
As you are planning, they are also planning. It's just like Boko Haram. And that's why it's been so difficult for us to defeat Boko Haram. As you are planning, they are planning. They look at the strategies that you are deploying, and they look for an antidote. These guys have made up their minds that they will continue to make a living out of banditry, out of killing our people. So once you descend on them with maximum force, they retreat. When they retreat, you imagine that it is all over. But it's not all over, because remember Boko Haram for a long time, they didn't really attack military bases. But clearly during that time, they were planning, they were amassing weapons, and today, even in daytime, they attack army bases. They kill our soldiers. They chase our soldiers away from their army bases. So this is what is happening. As you are planning, they too are planning. They are not ready to give up a life of crime. So, but we must not give up. We must continue to do our best to flush these people out wherever they are. They will, because They are in those areas, and we have an obligation to protect the lives of our people.
Gentlemen, we have to wrap it here. Babajide Kolade Otitoju, thank you for joining us on Journalist Hangout. Wahid Bakare, it's good to have you on the show.
It's my pleasure.
That's all on Journalist Hangout. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalist Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen, and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.